Hello, my beauties. I would like to remind you that if you're interested in supporting Unspoiled, you can do so by supporting the War for the Tower podcast. If you haven't heard of it yet, the War for the Tower podcast is an actual play podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. I don't know how many of you have read those books. I covered them for Unspoiled with Miles, but they don't end the way many of us were hoping. And the War for the Tower aims to correct some of those errors. So, if you love the story, you wanted more, but you just didn't want more from Stephen King, check them out at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 5, Episode 1, The 11th Hour. In this episode, we are here with this goofy new doctor who is extremely rude about food that he doesn't like, but otherwise pretty likable. And I really thought he was being paired up with a constable, and I got very excited. Turns out, she's so much more than a constable. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
And I am Jamie.
So this is our first episode of Dr. 11?
Yep,
Is this
11.
Dr. 11?
Yeah.
Okay. And, man, but this doctor does not have his shit together.
Well, he's still, he keeps talking about how the TARDIS is still cooking. Well, he says he's still cooking, too. He's still cooking.
Right.
At least he's not passed out for the entire episode.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. It was how that started with 10.
Yeah.
Oh, what a useless goober he was. Until he showed up and decided to kick somebody off a cliff.
So at least with 11, we get a lot of him like, let's see if this works. I don't know. Who's that? That's you? He hasn't even looked in the mirror yet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you were taking on a new form, wouldn't you, just literally stand in front of the mirror?
Yes.
I would just be obsessed with what I look like now. That would be all I would want to do for an entire day. Is just figure out what do I look like from every angle all over. And just get used to that. And go shopping, probably. Which he kind of does. Except, they belong to other people, but it's fine. Also, the TARDIS changed. I don't feel like I understand why it's crashing. Because it starts crashing as soon as 10 is, on board heading out last episode.
No. When he started to regenerate, he set a whole bunch of stuff on fire.
So it was the act of regenerating that caused it to start to break down? Okay. Yeah. I don't think I understood that. So does that happen every time?
No.
So why this time?
I think it was so they could, I think Stephen Moffat wanted to do a little renovation of the inside of the TARDIS. And this was a way to make that happen.
I must say that I approve of this renovation.
Mm-hmm. It's not the first time. The TARDIS that we were used to with 9 and 10 is probably different from earlier TARDIses? Tardi? I'm not positive, but I think, as they've been able to do more with the interior of the TARDIS, they do. Mm-hmm. And so, this is all, he basically leaves the TARDIS to regenerate itself, and it gives itself a whole makeover. Even the front is slightly different.
The front's different. I don't feel like I noticed that.
It now says St. John's Ambulance on it, which I think is a callback to earlier versions of the TARDIS.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little panel on it now. But then the inside is completely different.
Yeah, he says something about a swimming pool. Listen,
Sure.
Does this mean that we are going to get an eventual tour of the sleeping quarters for companions on the TARDIS?
There's a
I
swimming
am
pool
unconvinced that there is a sleeping quarter. I think that they just get cocooned really creepily, alien style.
Maybe.
I think I made you uncomfortable with that one.
I had to think about what that looked like.
I mean, it basically like a hammock, but like filled with fluid.
I had to remember aliens. Because that's in the second one, I think.
Maybe?
I don't know.
I was thinking of Cocoon. But, you know.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Wilford Brimley, who inexplicably was like 45
No.
in that movie. Yeah.
Shut up.
Dude,
No!
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna Google it. I had a friend the other day who was just like, "Can we talk about how differently people age now?" And she posted a picture of the boss from Mary Tyler Moore, whose name I'm forgetting, and he was 45. That's the guy, and she then was then like, and this is Joshua Jackson at 45.
No!
And it was just like, oh, are you kidding? They look like there's decades between them. How old was Wilford Brimley when he was in Cocoon? Thank you, Google, for filling that in. He was 50. He was 50 years old.
Still.
Yeah.
I think about when I watch Friends and how Richard, who's played by Tom Selleck, is supposed to be 21 years older than Monica when they're dating. And if you try to figure out, like, what age... If she were 23 in the second season, then he's only 44, which is... Tom Selleck could not have only been in his 40s. Mm-hmm. Right?
No, definitely not. Well, I don't know.
It was
I'm just
the early
not good
90s.
at this.
I know. But you look at Tom Selleck and you're like, he was a full-grown adult. He had to be in his late 50s, and then he probably wasn't.
So you don't think of like 40-something as a full-grown adult?
I don't, because I'm 40-something and I feel like a kid all the time.
That's what it is. It's your perspective based on where you are at any given age.
True.
Because I would really
Yes, 45 is a full-grown adult, but I think like an old adult. And it's hard for me to look at Friends now and be like, so the parents are only supposed to be in their 40s? Like, could that possibly be what they're going for here? Because they cast them so much older.
45 in like 3 weeks, just so you know.
I'm not... Right, and does
I'm
she seem like an old person?
This is what I'm like. She was trying to tell me the other day that I should enjoy my face because my face is going to start to drop. And I just cut her off and I was like, bitch, no. You look my age. You do not get to say anything. You're 10 years older than me, but we look the same age. Mm-hmm. Don't even talk to me about it. By the time I am your age, I'm going to look 20 years older than you because that's just how life is. So
yesterday I had a meeting with my DM and he was like, I said something. He's like, how old are you? And I was like, and he's like, you don't have to tell me, but I can look it up. And so I told him and I was like, sorry.
Play.
I know. I was like, I said my age and he was like,
I love that you won't say it
I don't
now.
want to say it. I'm 40.
God.
I'm 43, but I honestly had to think about it yesterday. I was like, wait, I'm 43. And he's like, you're what? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I would not have guessed. You don't even look close. And I was like, cool. That's great. Because I look in the mirror and I think, oh my God, I look like I'm 60. When did that happen?
I had to get photos taken of my face at rest for the Botox because of the twitch that I have on the side of my face. And she showed me the photos and I was literally about to say, who's that? It was shocking. I looked like the kind of woman who drives around with a container of wild turkey in her glove compartment and is dodging out for like a pack of cigarettes. Like I looked like I lived hard and did not take good care of myself. And I couldn't, it was girl, listen, a part of me is like, if I get this facial twitch thing solved, I won't have a perfectly good excuse to go get Botox anymore. And then what? Not that the Botox does anything really for my face, as far as I could tell. But
yeah, I don't go get Botox unless it's for a actual reason. I
have always, even when gaining weight, I have always been able to rely on my face as being cute, even if I gain weight.
Your face
and I'm
is
getting
beautiful.
To this point where my face is starting to not look like my face anymore and is starting to not be as reliable a thing for me as it used to be. And it's very disorienting and nerve-wracking for me.
No, I understand that.
You know, it's just like, this was a thing that I thought I knew pretty well and could just depend on. And who's that? Anyway. So, yeah, like I said, I would spend all day looking in the mirror and shopping.
He didn't even
I also
bother.
want to mention that there is a new theme song, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I like this version of the theme a whole lot. Hopefully I will be able to track it down to use in the opening for the show.
And this doctor has his own theme song, which I think they all do. David Tennant's was kind of mournful, and Matt Smith's is very energetic and like rousing. I
didn't realize that the doctor got his own theme.
Yeah, the new one that dun 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 dun, dun that's Eleven's theme.
Okay, what was David Tennant's?
I can't remember now. And it's honestly not because I don't want to sing it. It's I cannot remember it. Lucky that I just remembered Eleven's. I'm pretty.
How would one look that up?
Stoned. I don't know.
Doctor theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, good. I'm playing it right now, guys. I know this is riveting audio because none of you can hear what I'm hearing, but bear with me for a second. Oh yeah, it's a real slow like. Come on. Oh my God, it's just a tone for like the first 20 seconds. Oh. Yeah, this is like the fucking oud sound.
Kind of. Yeah, that was worked in.
Yeah, I don't like that. Bye-bye.
But yeah, like.
It's too much.
11. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
It just kind of goes along with how all of the stuff in those seasons was kind of over dramatic or melodramatic. His theme, while beautiful, is like has a very specific feel to it that's not the feel of adventure.
Definitely not.
And I think Eleven's theme is very adventurous. It makes you want to like follow where he's going.
Yeah, that was overall the vibe of this episode. Is just like, we're going to actually have fun with this fucking insane, objectively insane character. Mm-hmm. We're going to make him be real weird and just embrace the weirdness and not try and be like, oh, so whimsical, but also deadly serious and very like intense. I mean, I'm sure that they'll pull some of that out. Mm-hmm. And there are moments where he's just like, don't you fuck with Earth, you fucks. Mm-hmm. Which is pretty good. But mostly it felt like they were really leaning into the silliness in a way that other episodes tended to not do in a like consistent way. They would lean into it sort of abruptly in the middle of an otherwise kind of serious episode, and it would just feel very like disorienting almost when it happened.
And it also wasn't the same tone. Like, the doctor himself being a total goof and being sort of big in his reactions is different from full-on camp.
Right.
And what Russell T. Davies did when he was being light was to be super campy.
Yeah, all I keep thinking about is the weird assortment of ingredients that had to be shoved into the doctor's mouth when he got poisoned in the
right.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Which that is a funny scene, but it just doesn't really work then.
This is great when he's asking little Amelia to like give him an apple. I love apples. This is disgusting. What is this?
Rude.
And then having her cook bacon, and he spits it out. It's like, bacon's the devil. Like,
he chucks the plate of bread and butter out the door and just says, and stay out.
Yeah.
Guys, he just broke her plate. He just straight up threw her plate outside.
The greatest thing, though, is her face in reaction to what he's doing, where she's just like, the fuck?
She really takes it all in stride,
Yeah.
much more than I would when I was her age. I mean, she cooked him bacon.
Mm-hmm.
I would
lot of
like,
bacon.
this guy comes to my door and starts demanding that I cook for him. He can take several seats. Think you know. And I do the thing. I cook for him, and he literally spits it out all over the table. Sir, you can go get the mop and clean this up, and I will hand you the pan and instruct you on how to proceed yourself. But I am not doing this for you again. And then what he winds up having is vanilla custard with fish fingers dunked in it. Mm-hmm. Which is just so revolting on so many different levels. I mean, you don't want to mix the flavor of a lot of savory things with sweet in the first place. But I would say that fish is like way up there on the list of things that don't work. And then it's not just sweet, it's creamy sweet. And it's got this like thick, viscous texture, and he's dunking things in it that are breaded and definitely going to be like leaving crumbs behind and stuff. Oh, so disgusting. So gross. So gross.
Yep. But he just... I want to know what it actually was that he was eating. Because there's no way that they were going to force him to eat actual fish sticks in custard.
I bet it was like something like mayonnaise based, like a kind of a tartar sauce or something like that.
I went the other way thinking the custard was real, but the fish sticks were actually like covered, like cookies covered in graham cracker or something.
I could see that. That sounds good, actually. We could do that.
If I ever go to a convention that Matt Smith is at, that's what I'm going to ask.
What was actually the fish and...
You've probably been asked this before,
right
but what was this... What, are you going to take my question away from me? Fine.
I'm going to take it away. What was the fish... Does he call it fish fingers?
Fish fingers, yeah.
Fish fingers and custard. Fish custard, also called fish fingers and custard, was a dish enjoyed by the 11th Doctor. Thank you, I know this. This is just like telling me what it was that he ate.
Yeah, be careful. Tread lightly, you.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Yeah, let me look this up.
Somebody on Reddit just asked, does fish fingers and custard actually taste good?
Oh my god.
Guys, no, that's the joke. That's the joke. Bless. These recipes are... There's a lot of them. I'm actually kind of startled. Fish fingers and custard does not seem like something a normal person would want to eat.
I got it.
What?
I got answers.
What is it?
Hold on. There's all these pop-ups.
Oh, can we talk for a brief moment about pop-ups on fucking articles on your phone?
Yeah.
It's like not only the pop-ups, but because the phone compensates for the pop-ups by like scrolling, you'll be like 2 paragraphs in before the page is done loading, and all of a sudden it just jumps up 4 inches.
Yep.
And you completely lose your spot. It's the most infuriating shit.
All right, so Matt Smith initially claimed it was actually fish fingers and custard he was eating, and that he found it gorgeous. The fish fingers were actually coconut breaded cakes.
Ah.
Smith later ate genuine fish custard on the Christmas 2010 special of The Graham Norton Show. What a fucking hero. Why would he do that?
Why would you do that? All right, he is a lunatic. But like... coconut breaded cakes fingers dunked in custard sounds awesome.
Yeah, that does sound great.
I really want that now. Ugh, yum. All right, so he crash lands in the yard of a little girl who's in the middle of saying a prayer to Santa, which, guys, I mean, this makes total sense. If you are a little kid and your parents or whoever is taking care of you does not go to church and you don't necessarily believe in God and you don't really know who to talk to for help, Santa's your guy. Makes sense to me. And she is saying to Santa that there is a crack in her wall, and people keep saying that it's an ordinary crack, but she hears voices coming from it, and it's scaring her, and she wants somebody to come and fix it. And she's like mid-sentence when there's this crash, and here comes the doctor crawling out, soaking wet, because the swimming pool crashed into the library, and he crashed into the swimming pool. And he is raggedy, as she calls him, which I can't, like, I love it. Raggedy is just, it's, for me, such a, like, colloquialism for just being, like, kind of like a shitty person, you know, just being like, oh, you raggedy ass. So her being, like, the raggedy doctor is, like, I know that she was doing it in genuine, like, oh, I'm trying to explain to you what he looked like, but it sounds like she's just got such a grudge because he never came back that she's just like, yeah, that fucking raggedy doctor, whatever, fuck that guy, you know? He comes out and he, like, breathes some gold sparks. Is that his regeneration still happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the energy expelling from his regeneration.
Okay. And yeah, he is immediately asking for apples. We get this whole scene of him trying to figure out what food. He finally picks his custard and fish fingers and then agrees to go and look at the crack in her room. And he says something to her about, because he's asking her about, like, being afraid of this and that. And she says that she's not. And he's like, yeah, you're clearly not, because I'm sitting here in your kitchen being a goddamned weirdo, and don't lie, I know I am. And you're just taking it in total stride. And yet, you are afraid of this crack in your wall. So that leads me to believe this must be really unnerving.
Did you catch, like, when he asked her what her name was and how he responded to that?
Amelia
Pond.
Pond. It's like something out of a fairy tale, he says. Is that significant?
She just brings it up later.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's also Scottish, and so he thinks they're in Scotland, and she says that they're in England. Mm-hmm. It
turns out that she doesn't have any parents. She's living with her aunt, who, in the middle of the night, is not even at home. So clearly this girl is somewhat neglected.
And she does talk about her mom a little bit later when she offers him the apple with the smiley face on it. She says her mom used to do that.
This is tragic. I mean, this house, like, just we get a view of the house from the outside when she's praying, and it's just like the whole house is obviously as neglected as she is. You know, the yard is a mess and really overgrown, and the outside of it is, like, cracked and peeling. And yeah, you just get the feeling of a girl left mostly to her own devices, and a guardian who does not really give a shit either way what she decides to do with herself. So he goes up and listens at the crack in her wall, and he says that the crack is a split in the skin of the world. Two parts of space and time that should never have touched, pressed together. And he gets a glass in order to listen closer at the wall, and he can hear a voice saying, "Prisoner Zero has escaped." And we wind up finding out that Prisoner Zero has come through this little crack and has made its home in this house in an area that is, like, what does he say? Veiled? Shielded?
It's got a perception filter on it.
Filtered. That's the one. So that it's, like, not invisible. It's not, but she just doesn't notice it.
Right. And the TARDIS has a perception filter. so that it can sort
okay.
of be wherever and people don't pay any attention to it.
Right. Yeah, I found this interesting. This whole and like we wound up finding out later that the thing that escaped did not make this crack.
Right.
It was not part of its grand plan.
No, it took advantage of something.
Yeah, it just took it like, oh, okay, cool, bye, and just bailed. Which is going to be part of, I suspect, the driving force of this season, because that seems like a setup. Because it talks about, what does it call about? The Pandoric?
The Pandorica?
Pandorica, that's the one. Mm-hmm. Will open? Or will arrive?
The Pandorica will open and silence will fall.
And silence will fall.
Now, if we're going to talk about that, I want to bring up and not forget, not that I could forget, when they're in the hospital and the alien makes itself look like a woman and two children. When she talks about the Pandorica opening. Do you recognize her?
I did, and I didn't check who she, because I don't want to spoil myself. But who is she?
That's Olivia Colman. She won the Best Actress Oscar last year for The Favorite. She's on Broadchurch. And she's on The Crown right now. She plays Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
On the third season of The Crown.
I've not seen any of those things.
She was also in, I think she's in Hot Fuzz. She is in Hot Fuzz.
Maybe that's where I know her from.
Yeah, she plays one of the cops in Hot Fuzz. She's brilliant. She's amazing. And I forgot. Actually, I didn't know who she was when I originally watched this episode. So rewatching it and Olivia Colman popping up, I was just like, holy shit.
And is the guy who has the laptop the dude who's a monkey in
Yes.
Umbrella Academy?
And also Dickon.
Dickon. Fucking Dickon.
Dickon Tarley. Or as I described him yesterday when I was like, Jason, do you recognize that guy? And he's like, do I? And I was like, do you? And then he realized it was Luther from Umbrella Academy. I was like, yeah, and also Roasty Toasty Dickon.
Roasty Toast? Oh, right.
Because he chose to die by Dragonfire.
Toasty.
Yeah, Tom Hopper. That's his name.
That's not a good name for him. I don't like that. He needs to be named something like Ethan Lazley. I don't know.
And then, of course, we have Karen Gillan, who
right.
you might know from her role of Nebula, but you don't really see her face as well. But she's great.
Yeah, so there were... Actually, you know, I'm going to save that. I'm going to talk about that later. All right, so let's go back to the crack in the wall. He's talking to her about it, and it's like he proposes that he can force a crack open and that it will sort of like fix itself. And that does appear to be what has happened. But evidently this thing like got through before he closed it, right?
It was already...
That's how it's supposed to be?
Yeah, it was already come through. So what we see when he widens it is the guard in the prison. So he sees the prison that the prisoner escaped from. And
he gets a message on his psychic paper. Prisoner Zero has escaped. And I'm like, yeah, we knew that, buddy. That's cool. Okay, we got it. But evidently he's just really fixated on expressing this. And he realizes, oh, shit, he might be here. So, and he says something about how, like, oh, but he couldn't have, we'd know. And I'm like, I mean, you would maybe know because somebody told you that he escaped and there's a giant crack in the wall. So that feels like the thing that feels like how you know. But he seems to think that there's just going to be like a big, like, messy trail left behind by this thing, you know? And I'm just like, well, this kind of feels like the thing that's telling you what you need to know here.
He's still sort of getting his wits about him.
Yeah, I sensed that. So they're in the middle of like just starting to discover this door, and he hears the TARDIS making this sound and begins to panic and runs outside.
It says here that the engines are in danger of phasing out of existence. So basically what he has to do is take it on a quick jump.
how does that work?
I don't know because I've never built a TARDIS, although I did get a book for Christmas that is all about the TARDIS. Thank you, Krista. So I'm sure that would have some explanation in it. But I haven't read it yet.
Understand, like, if it's about to phase out of existence, why using it is going to stabilize it versus just put stress on it that would cause it to just fall apart.
What if you think of it like if your battery had to get a jump start, and what you want to do when your battery has run down is drive around for a little while and let it sort of juice back up, help from the alternator, I believe. You want to drive around for 20 to 30 minutes is what my dad always told me, because it boosts your battery back. The engine helps charge it really quickly too. So what if the TARDIS is like that? Its engines are in danger of phasing out of existence, so he needs to sort of give them a place to go. And that sort of jump starts what they do.
I accept that.
Okay. That's how I took it.
So then we have the saddest sequence in the history
Seriously,
of the world.
I had to keep from crying yesterday.
This reminded me of that fucking Futurama episode with his dog.
Oh, God. Nope. Can't even think about it. Do you want me to have another panic attack? Thinking about a cartoon dog.
Fucking precious in her little red Wellingtons and her nightgown and her little red cardigan that matches her Wellingtons. And then she goes and gets a little red cap and a blue jacket with little red buttons and a little suitcase with red trim. And she is just the most adorable thing that's ever walked. She gets this hard-sided, old-fashioned suitcase like she's fucking Amelie and packs her shit ready to go, get taken away from this bullshit place, and goes and sits outside waiting for him to come back because he said it would be 5 minutes. And she expresses that's what they always say. And he reassures her that he is not like everyone else and that it won't be this way, yada, yada, yada. She believes him, really believes him. Mm-hmm. And then you see her sitting there for a while. And then when he comes back, it's light outside. And I'm like, this yard does not look the same. Oh, dear. And sure enough, he breaks into the house. Rude. And is running up trying to, like, find her and trying to go into, like, the one room where Prisoner Zero is at. And this woman is like, what the fuck are you doing? Bashes him in the face with a cricket bat. And then when he comes to, she appears to be police.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the very short skirt should have been an indication.
I didn't notice skirt, to be honest. And I have, like, been horrified anew at the discovery of what uniforms are like for women in law enforcement in a few different places. Like, it's starting to become more standardized where they just wear exactly what the men wear. Mm-hmm. But in Britain, women were wearing skirts up until, like, a shockingly recent time.
Really?
Not short, not like this. They were, like, you know, slightly below knee length, but nevertheless. So part of me was just like, I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised. And instantly you can see this is a little girl. Mm-hmm. I mean, she looks exactly the same.
You want to know why?
Why?
That's her cousin.
Hey!
I just read that.
Well done.
She convinced them to audition her cousin, who she
her
had
cousin
never
was quite
met.
Good, by the way.
Said they met on the set of Doctor Who.
Oh my God, what?
But there's a pretty big age difference between them, so, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
Especially if she's, like, hasn't been living in Scotland for a while. I don't know what Karen Gillan's life was like at the time, but, you know, this little girl is, like, 7 years old, so it's not like they were hanging out.
Yeah, she was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
she's really good.
Loved her. And it takes the Doctor, like, a shockingly long time to figure out that this is the same little girl, because he really is confident that he has only been away a little bit longer than he said. Like, you know, it's been several hours rather than 5 minutes, but, you know, mm-hmm. whatever. And when he realizes, because she says Amelia hasn't lived here for some time, and he says, how long? She says 6 months. Mm-hmm. And he asks her later why she picked 6 months. Do we get an answer on that ever?
No. He says, why did you say 6 months? And she doesn't really answer him, and they are arguing, and he's like, you said 6 months. And she says, you said 5 minutes.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's like a... If the proposal... But she's not even like... I don't know.
No. The proposal that we learn about later?
Right.
No, because when he leaves and comes back again, it's been 2 years.
Right.
The TARDIS is still, like, not at 100%, so he hasn't been able to navigate it to the right time that he is clearly trying to set it for.
Right. So, yeah, I wonder about that 6 month thing. Like,
I'm wondering if she just was giving, like, an easy answer. Because he clearly didn't recognize her as Amelia.
Right. And she goes by Amy now, but I don't like it, and I hope she changes back. I think that he just keeps calling her Amelia, so maybe it'll just sort of like settle.
Well, did you catch the line of why she doesn't go by Amelia?
It was a little fairy tale-ish.
It was a little fairy tale.
I think that she should just get it back.
I need to ask my friends. I don't think they listen to this show, but my friends that live in New Zealand currently had a daughter. I think she's like 6 or 8 months old now. Her name is Amelia Rose. And I really want to ask them, did you on purpose name her after 2 Doctor Who companions? Or is that just a complete... Because they call her Amy.
Oh.
Her name is Amelia, and they call her Amy.
Amy as the shortening for Amelia. Like, I know it works, but it just, I don't like it because it just sounds like another extant name. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm like trying to think of what another alternative nickname for Amelia is, and first thing I came up with was Mealy, and I was like, wow, that's real terrible. Oh, God.
Yeah, there's not really one. And even on Grey's Anatomy, there's a character named Amelia, and she also, when she was younger, went by Amy. Like, her family calls her Amy, but she goes by Amelia now. So it must be more common than we think.
Yeah, I mean, Amelia is a slightly unusual name. Like, it's common, and it's like, very... It's English sounding to me, so it's not. But it's a little bit old fashioned. You don't hear it as much anymore.
It's not an unheard of name, but yeah, it's just not a common name.
I just keep thinking Amelia Bedelia. That bitch that I would have fired on the first day. And I feel like she deserves some better representation. That name deserves better representation. So I'm glad that we have this this girl here showing up. All right, so we have a brief detour to the hospital. And there are all of these patients who are in comas. And they are all asking for the doctor. They are all in their coma calling out for the doctor. Mm-hmm. And the poor kid goes and just gets a doctor because he doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's also quickly revealed that this young man has been spotting these people who are in comas and unable to move or talk or even open their eyes around town, just fucking walking around. Mm-hmm. And the woman that is his superior, the doctor, is just really like, you are an idiot. We know everything that's going on with these people at all times. There is no fucking way that they are just getting up and walking out of here down to the shops to get something to drink. Like, that's not happening.
And he says he has pictures and she refuses to even look.
Like,
he has pictures.
Bitch. I do not understand these moments and this is not the only show to do this, where somebody claims to have evidence and another person refuses to even entertain it. Like, just look. What is it costing you? Just shut up for a second. Just fucking shut up. You don't know everything. Ugh, people disgust me. And as we find out later, this fucking thing has to create a psychic link with something that is alive, but whose mind is dormant.
Kind of, yeah.
And apparently he can create a link with something that's like got an active mind, but it takes a lot longer to do that because he is able to copy Amelia.
Right. But he was able to copy Amelia because he was in the same house as her for 12 years.
Right.
So, yes, it takes longer. It's a much longer process of, I guess, however you would develop that link without that person knowing.
I'm really curious what this thing was planning to do.
Yeah. We don't
like, it doesn't feel like it has a plan. It's just sort of like, let me just lay low. But when the doctor says that it can live for millennia, I'm like, this isn't like, you gotta think a little bit longer term than what you got going on here, buddy, then. Like,
criminals are dumb. And they make stupid decisions. And maybe he thought, if I can stay hidden, they'll eventually stop looking for me. And then I can just take on these people's, like, images and move around the world. Or I can escape from this world and go somewhere else once, the Atroxy are not looking for me. I don't know.
It just feels like so limiting.
It
like,
does.
I'm just going to be like, I'm going to pretend to just be a regular old human on Earth.
I kind of like that we don't get this, like, sort of convoluted plan. Mm-hmm. Because that's been one of our more common complaints about the show, is this plan doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's true.
And this, it's like, he's here. We see what he's doing currently. We don't need to know what his plans are, other than he's hiding for a reason. We know the reason.
Right.
And that's enough.
That's fair. I'm just curious about it because it feels like he's like working up to something, and I'm just like, dude, you did not you can't just wander around town. People are recognizing you, like it's happening. But I guess he's just riding on the fact that nobody believes this poor schmuck who keeps trying to tell people shit.
Poor Rory.
I feel so like he reminds me so much of what is his name? Now I have to look him up. But he played the genius in Dollhouse, and he was the stoner in Cabin in the Woods.
Fran
Toby.
Kranz. He played Topher, but his name is Fran.
Fran?
Yeah, it's Francis, but he goes by Fran.
Oh, why would you do that?
Fran
Talking
Kranz.
about bad names.
I love
Fran
him.
Kranz
Yes.
does not sound like a fucking name. Why would he do that? It just sounds like you started to say two names and then got cut off. Oh my God.
I can see what you mean. They have similar, their hair is kind of the same color. And they
have the same sort of dopey energy. Even though he plays like a genius, he's still dopey in his way. But still likable. Mm-hmm. But yeah, nobody's listening to this guy. So here comes the most annoying fucking scene in the entire thing, which is Amelia deciding to go into this goddamn room and not listen to the doctor, who is explaining to her that she won't be able to see the thing. If the thing sees her, it will kill her. Don't touch anything. Just get out of there. And she just is ignoring him so hard. Mm-hmm. And I was like, girl, oh my God, if you don't fucking turn around and get out, I am going to come through this screen and grab your hat off your head and smack you across the face with it. I was so impatient. Oh, you guys, I can't, there are so many more annoying things that I have watched happen in general, not just on this show, but in general. And for some reason, this particular scene irritated me so bad. I don't know why, but it's just he's just relentlessly, get out of there. Stop. Get out of there. Don't open the door. Don't get out of there. Is it in there? Don't pick it up. Don't do anything. And she's just ignoring him like she's under a spell. I really thought for a moment that's what it was going to be. That it was hungry and it lured people in somehow,
Well, that would make a certain amount of sense if that's what they did, since it kind of looks like a big anglerfish.
And it comes down behind her with its like mouth open. So like that's what but it turns out that she's just being an idiot.
She's just stubborn.
So you know what, Amelia? Look, if you get eaten by a giant anglerfish, I don't think I'm going to cry for you because you asked for it. Just don't do this in future because I want to be on your side. So watch it.
The doctor actually says, "Do I have one of those faces people ignore again?"
Yikes.
No, sir. You have the face of an alien.
He does.
He does.
I mean, it felt a little bit rude when they literally wrote into the script, "Do I look like people?" Like, ouch. Whose idea? Who was like, "Oh yeah, keep that in. Have him say that." Like, oh, are we putting prosthetics on? No. But wait till you see this guy. You'll understand. Like, Jesus. So finally, like, he's, by the way, handcuffed to the radiator. This fucking thing drops down behind her. It's real creepy looking. The CGI is not good, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. And then this guy comes out into the hall and he's like got a dog with him and is in like a jumpsuit and has like a tool belt on and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And he's pretty much gotten it right, except for the fact that when he opens his mouth to speak, he barks. Mm-hmm. And it's just, he got all mixed up. And then when he realizes that they can tell what he is, he opens his mouth and he just has these like real crazy looking, I don't even want to call them teeth. They're like barbs. They're like quills.
Yeah, like quills.
Oh, they're horrifying.
Like porcupine quills.
Yeah, they look like the look that they have makes you think that it's just like a mucus that's like stretched across the opening of his mouth until you realize that they're not connected to either side of his mouth. And then you're just like, oh my God, those are his teeth. Oh no. And he just walks right out of there. He just walks away because the doctor is still cuffed. He only just got his sonic screwdriver back to get out of the cuffs. I don't know why she doesn't uncuff him. Does she lose the keys or something?
I don't actually have an answer for that because I don't think they say anything about it. Like,
okay,
did she swallow the key? Did she do that thing they do in cartoons?
Oh, God. I don't, like, why would you ever do that? So...
And he's like, you called for backup. And she's like,
oh, that's right. They have the back and forth. We have backup. No, we don't. Yeah, we do. Oh, no, we don't. That was funny.
But it turns out she's a kissogram.
Right.
Which some people wondered, was she originally supposed to be a stripper?
Oh, okay.
But apparently there are things called kissograms. Or this kind of service, which actually seems worse than stripping.
I mean, I knew that it was a real thing. Did people not think this was a real thing?
I think some people didn't know if kissogram was like a thing that was actually done.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like that you hear about like singing telegrams or whatever. But with a kissogram, do they go and actually kiss people? Mm-hmm. No thanks.
Which, like, honestly... That sounds like a really great way to get oral herpes. Like,
yeah.
why would you ever do that?
No, thanks. I'd rather be a stripper where you're not allowed to touch me.
Right? Yeah, definitely. I'm safely up on a stage away from you. Thank you very much. Or, I guess, giving a lap dance, you are in closer contact, so there's
still not supposed to touch.
But yeah, they are. You're hopefully, if you're in a decent facility, going to have security around as well.
Yeah.
I should also mention that, like, at first glance, when her hair is up and everything, she looks so much older. And once her hair is down and she's, like, following him outside, it's so clear. She's, like, very cultish. Mm-hmm. She's got really long legs. Her face is round enough that I expected her to be, like, fuller in figure. But when you see how, like, she's shaped, she's very gangly, almost.
Yeah,
she's very taller than him, I think.
She's very tall. She's everything is long. Her arms are long. Like she's got long fingers. Like she's just very
stretched out.
Stretched, yes. And not like in a bad way, but like she's just a very elongated person. I'm going to look up her height.
So this is when she finally tells him that, well, she doesn't tell him. She just says, why did you say 5 minutes? And he's like, oh, come on. That is not what it is. No way. And they start to hear this announcement about how Prisoner Zero must vacate the human residence or the residence will be incinerated. And when they first hear that, they, of course, think that this means the house.
Yeah.
And are just like, well, let's get out of this fucking house then. And then they begin to hear this coming from all of these radios as they walk around town. There's like anything that has like a speaker on it. It's coming out of there. And this, I was grateful that this winds up being dealt with later because I was like, they have the power to just straight up burn a planet because there's a prisoner on it. That feels like that shouldn't be allowed. And sure enough, it is not allowed. Mm-hmm. This is not how this is supposed to go. And the doctor is pretty pissed about it. And they do try and just like walk away and act like this never happened. To which he is like, oh no, my friends, we are going to have a little chat. So as they're walking, before they actually start to hear all of this, she says something about having gone through 3 different psychiatrists. Mm-hmm. And she tells him it's because they all said that he wasn't real. And it's just a rather bleak picture that we get, you know, of this poor kid that's like already neglected.
Yeah.
And then people think that she's losing her mind. And how long has she like had to pretend that, oh no, you're right. I know now that it wasn't real. She has to tell everybody that she understands her mistake, even though we know that this was not her mistake. And I hate that. Having to say that you're wrong when you're not wrong. Mm-hmm. Having to say you're wrong when you are wrong is terrible enough. Having to say it when you're not is just, I can't stomach it. Like, ugh. I just really feel for her.
So she is 5'10".
Okay.
And he's 5'11".
Okay, so he is a little taller than her. I thought that he was, although she's wearing these shoes, so she might be taller than him in the scene. She's
like, it's funny, 5'10" and a quarter. And he's 5'11" and a half. Come on, guys. That's all right. Now
5'11" and a half.
Out of curiosity, I want to see how tall Rory is. Rory's 5'11". I wouldn't have thought he was that tall.
Huh. Everybody's shorter than I expected, though. I'm so
really?
used to the heights of the actors on Vikings.
Well, David Tennant is 6'1".
Is he? I thought he was taller than that. Okay.
No, he's 6'1". So, and like to me, that was surprising because I thought he wasn't. I didn't realize he was that tall.
He looks tall. Like he just looks also kind of stretched out to me.
Yeah, he's so thin, but I thought he's probably 5'10". Matt Smith, I figure, he's probably like 6'2", and he's 5'11".
Yeah, Matt Smith looks like he would be tall. Huh, Interesting. He's like shorter than Owen. Owen's 6 foot.
Owen's 6 foot?
Mm-hmm.
I think you've told me that before.
Yeah. He might be like a tiny bit shy of 6, but he's pretty much 6 foot. I'm 5'6", and he is, my face is in his chest most of the time.
Jason's 6 feet.
I really need him to be taller than me. So that's all I need.
That's how I feel too. But I'm also shorter than you. I'm barely 5'4". I'm not 5'4".
I am exactly the average height for women in the United States. It's so boring. But my legs are much shorter than the average woman, probably.
Oh, mine are longer.
I have weird pony legs. Short little dumpling legs.
I've measured my legs from heel to hip once, and it's just about 3 feet.
Shut up.
I'm 5'4".
Yeah, and you've got long legs,
and I've
so
got
who cares?
But they're too long. I'm too short to have legs that are this much longer than the rest of my body, it's hard to buy pants.
It's hard to buy pants. Yeah, I guess. I have a long torso, so let me tell you, the fucking like hip hugger phase that we went through in the 90s and 2000s.
You were ranting about that on some podcast I was listening to, and I was like, see, I was so happy when low-rise jeans came out because I am short torsoed and very long legged. And it was really, really hard to buy pants that fit my legs and didn't come up to my boobs when they were high-waisted pants.
Low-rise pants are hateful.
I can see why you would think that. I can see why a lot of people would think that. But for me, it made jeans shopping so much easier. And I can't, even with this high-waisted pants thing coming back, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it again. I suffered for years.
I mean, look, having the pants not fit well does suck. But I would rather have something that fits a little bit poorly than have my fucking ass and thong hanging out the back of my jeans every time I sit down.
That phase, and that was like the early 2000s, they were so low. There was hardly any pants beyond the leg part of the pants.
1998 through 2001.
God.
Sitting down in class, my ass would show. And I did everything to try and keep that from happening. This was not a fashion statement. I wasn't enjoying it. It was awful. And having a round ass and a long torso in the age of not only low-rise pants, but also the 90s fucking stick figure like aesthetic that we were all going for, where people had no hips. Forget it.
Yeah. Ugh. See, I never had a butt, and I have a short torso. So they really were like, oh, finally for me. And even the pants I buy now are mid-rise. They're not. I wish
that we could just not have like trends.
Yeah.
And just wear what we like. Like I know people are like, well, you can, but no, you can't find stuff. When it's off trend, it's like, good luck. You got to make things yourself, or like, get this like weird janky version off of Wish and hope to God that it fucking does something when it shows up.
Or thrift shop.
Yeah. And hope that you don't buy all of the ones in your area that people are giving away and like dry out the entire market before you're ready to give up.
Yeah.
Anyway. So then they meet up with this old lady. How do they wind up in her house? They're trying to get a radio?
They just run in.
Why does he do this? There is this moment where she says that she's a kissogram, and he says, you were a little girl 5 minutes ago. And I get what he's saying, obviously, because he just saw her. But when she's talking about how, like, she could be a nurse or she could be a French maid, and then he says you were a little girl 5 minutes ago, it just sounds like that's one of the costumes that she does, and it was very disturbing to me. I did not like that. Yes, I'm like a kissogram.
I see what you're saying.
Looks like a child. Thank you.
Yeah. No, he's not Marin Trant.
Yeah. I was going to say Jeffrey Epstein, but, whatever.
I went with fictional characters.
So, yeah, he's listening to this message that's playing, and he is realizing that it is being broadcast in every language as well, to the entire world. So, obviously, what they're talking about when they say that they are going to incinerate the residents is that they are going to burn the world, which just really does not seem fair.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of talk about like the kind of fission blast he would need and whatnot. And then he comes up against this dude who is rather attractive coming out of his room with his laptop. And there's a bunch of jokes a little bit later about how this dude is looking at some porn. Mm-hmm. And, doctor, you don't need to be so judgmental about it. It's fine. Very healthy young man. It's, no shame.
He's shy.
he's like, delete your browser history. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that was during an age where people didn't know to just use like incognito mode or, whatever it is. But yeah, this conversation leads to them going out into the street. He has this like kind of aggressive conversation with her about a duck pond.
Yeah.
And how does she know it's a duck pond if there are no ducks in it?
I don't know what the point of that was.
I thought that was really going to be something. I really did. I thought that was going to come back and there was going to be like, but no, it's just like a bit of argument for the sake of it, which like, it was funny. I didn't have a problem with it, but I just really, they focus on it enough that I thought it was going to, come back.
Thought because they kept showing the reflection that we were going to see that ship arrive in the reflection of the duck pond. And it was going to make this argument have a purpose other than them just butting heads because he's confused and she's mad.
Yeah, that would have been good. I would have been down for that. Yeah, it's just a weird thing. So then he's like trying to think back and he's like, what did I see? And he does this really cool thing that really is reminding me heartily of Sherlock.
Well, that would make sense, right?
Right? Like it really, you're starting to see these bits and bobs here. Where he sort of like goes back into his internal memory and is able to like Matrix style circle around people and see as they are frozen what it was that they were doing where they were standing at any given time. Mm-hmm. And there's all these people on the green who are understandably filming the fucking sun that is being like warped. And here's this other guy facing away from this warping sun and instead is just filming some random in the middle of the green. And it turns out that this random is Man with Dog. And the doctor recognizes that this is extremely strange behavior. Why is he so caught up in this dude? And he sees the Rory Williams emergency unit tag on his, like, he has really cataloged everything here in a way that we've never seen a doctor do this before. I don't know if they were capable of it and they just didn't, or if this is like a new thing that he can do that others weren't able to do. But I find it very interesting, and I kind of hope that this starts to be a thing because I just enjoy the effect of it, Mm-hmm. So he tells her, return to your loved ones and say goodbye or stay and help me. And she says no and grabs him by the tie and closes the car door on the tie and then locks the car. Mm-hmm. And this poor dude, she just tells him, go have a coffee. You'll get your car back. She's really like, fuck you, dude. I don't care. I'm pretty sure that dude is in Hot Fuzz also at some point. Finally, the doctor tells her, he hands her the apple with a smiley face in it that she made and is like, girl, I am the same one. I promise. No time passed. I did not abandon you. It has been a terrible mistake / misunderstanding. And I really need you to believe me, at least for right now. And at first she says that she doesn't. And he insists and is just like, no, seriously, please. And finally she unlocks him and lets him out and is like, okay, what do we need to do? And they go and talk to Rory, who is so charmingly befuddled. And he explains the thing with the people that are in comas, and the doctor's like, aha, now this is beginning to make sense. We see the people, like the poor dude that he is taking the form of right now. Apparently the dog comes from this guy's dreams. Yeah. And the dog obviously means a lot to him because there's pictures of it next to his comatose bed. Right? That's so sad. Yeah. It's so precious. And this thing comes out. I guess this is supposed to be the psychic link of it coming out of the fan. Yeah, I think so. Above the guy's bed. It's real spooky looking though. It's like this yellow light. It's gross. Like when the Doctor has the yellow light from regenerating, it's like golden and lovely. Mm-hmm. But this is like pee. This is like, just like sickly and urine. So I'm trying to remember how this goes next because he's talking like Rory's having a little trouble wrapping his head around the fact that the Doctor is real. Oh, that's right. He wants to know where the guy is, not this guy, the good-looking guy with the laptop is. Rory is a little bit put off by that. And I also enjoyed the introduction of Rory as like he's a friend, a boyfriend, a sort of a boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, this is messy. Who's she marrying at the end of this? Is it Rory? Because it doesn't feel like she'd be too excited about it. I mean, really seems like, I don't know, she's not that into this dude. And there's nothing like, I think Rory seems adorable, like I could see him being a good spouse, but it doesn't feel like she's particularly excited about this. So anyway, the Doctor goes and yanks the porn-riddled laptop out of this young man's hands. And thankfully did not just walk in on him jerking off straight up because that was like 2 seconds away from happening. And then just dials in on this like conference call between the world powers.
Yeah.
And sends them all of this like physics information about protons.
And how to travel at faster than light speed.
Which like... Why wasn't the other Doctor doing this stuff already? Doctor, share your knowledge, man. It didn't even occur to me. He just, like, knows how to do stuff or knows why things are the way they are. Mm-hmm. And just, like, didn't sit down and just, like, tell people, which I guess it's like, well, you'll figure it out eventually. It's not time for you yet.
Yeah, but he's like, this is the information I have. This is quid pro quo. Here, I'm going to give you this. Please upload these numbers when I say.
Yeah. I like it. I think this is a good way to do business. It makes sense to me.
Okay, Trump.
Hey. Hey.
Sorry.
I'm going to hang up on you.
I mean, that's what he thinks too, isn't it?
Hey.
It's all right.
Hey.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
If I could insert a record scratch, I would do it. So he gets them all to listen, and he also disseminates like the pictures of all of the people so that this thing can like track by this thing I mean like the fucking Eye of Sauron up here.
The Atraxi. The Eye of Sauron.
It's just like a blue Eye of Sauron. So that it can track this creature even when it's not in its regular form. Because evidently, transforming into human forms keeps it from being detectable. Which seems like a real flaw in the system. Like, if it can make these kinds of links and basically steal bodies, I really feel like y'all need to like work on that a little bit more. But, nothing's perfect. What can you do? So the Doctor is trying to inform everybody of the bodies that this thing could take in order to keep them, keep the, what is it called again? Did we ever find out the name of the creature that the prisoner is?
No.
Okay. I'll just call it the prisoner then. In order
Patient
to
Zero
keep the prisoner from being able to hide.
Prisoner Zero.
Patient Zero. I was like, wait, what? Okay, so he's out here doing that. Then we have the really awesome confrontation between the thing that is disguised as a lady and her daughters in the hallway. Mm-hmm. I immediately knew that this thing was the alien because she's just walking really weird, and the way she's holding on to it, it's just like, I was just like, no, this is the alien. And sure enough, one of the little girls begins to speak with an adult woman's voice. Mm-hmm. And I love the way this thing reacts. It just like kind of sighs and is like, I got it wrong again, didn't I? And it's just such a creepy moment. I really, really liked that. I just realized you said that this woman was in Hot Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize she was the dirty one. She's the one that's always being like, I've been around the station a few times.
Right.
Oh my God, I loved her. She was so funny. Okay, lovely.
She's very funny. Have you watched Fleabag yet?
No, it's on the list of things to be commissioned once I have more room.
Okay, because she's got a recurring role in that. She's amazing. Olivia Colman's amazing. Everything I've seen her in, I'm just like, God damn, what a great actress. She's really funny, and she's really great with drama.
This moment.
She also gave one of the best Oscar speeches I've ever seen.
What was her Oscar speech?
She just could not believe she had won. And she was just up there laughing. She was drunk. A little drunk. Like, you could tell she'd been having some champagne. Oh, wait, that's the Golden Globes, maybe. But she was just like, she was just laughing and like, this is absurd. I can't believe I'm up here. What is happening right now? And just, you should look up her Oscar speech from last year. It's hilarious.
The Oscars, there's no like tables and refreshments.
Yeah,
right? They're
I'm
all in
thinking,
seats like in a
if
theater.
If there was any booze being had, it was like beforehand or when you go and take a bathroom break. A lot of times you can get something to drink.
If you had just asked me, which would you rather go to, the Oscars or the Golden Globes? I would have said the Oscars because they're, supposed to be the more prestigious. And I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to see like the really fancy awards. But now that I think about it, I would rather go to the Golden Globes, sit at a table and be a little bit more comfortable, have a few drinks.
Oh, yeah. They get
dinner.
Wasted at the Golden Globes.
And they probably get like pretty good goodie bags. Right?
You'd think.
Right? Anyway, okay. So this moment, like her little girl speaking with the wrong voice. I love this. Oh, I'm getting it wrong again, aren't I? I'm always doing that. And I love Rory, who has not had an encounter with this thing as of yet. You can see him being very unnerved by this little girl. And then when they open their mouths, the poor guy just recoils. He is not ready. These teeth, they don't look real. They don't look good. They look very CGI and just strange. Mm-hmm. But they're still kind of effective anyway. So I was fine with it. So they run and lock themselves into this ward that's empty. I have to say, this creature keeps on being like, oh, I'm going to kill you, but then stands there posing with his teeth open for a very long time. He really just needs to start to get down to business here, I have to wonder what it was like for all the actors to have to stand there with their mouths open.
Yeah. For
so long in order for them to CGI this in. They must have felt crazy. And the doctor he makes quite an entrance, coming in by smashing through the window with a fireman's ladder.
Yes.
And has the confrontation with this creature whom he is like, man, can't you just give yourself up and then this will all be over? And the prisoner's like, no, at this point, as an escapee, they're definitely going to kill me. And if they're going to kill me, they better light this whole motherfucker up. Fuck it. And I was just like, wow, that is cold-blooded. If I am to die, then let there be fire. And I love the way she delivers that line because it could easily just be like, let there be fire. But she does it with almost a kind of a smirk. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, let's see him do this bullshit. Go ahead. Fuck you. And I just really enjoyed the delivery of this all. So then he's like, well, why don't you just make another fucking schism in space and time again and just get out of here. Just leave. And she's like, dude, I didn't make it the first time. Wait, did you think I did that? Do you not know what makes these? Oh my God, you don't. You doofus, you don't even know what's happening. And it's pretty good. This whole little moment is honestly a little bit upsetting because the doctor doesn't know what's going on. He's embarrassing himself. Ouch.
Embarrassing himself.
A little bit. He's just showing his hand. His hand is bubkiss. Bubkiss, I say. And this is when she says the Pandorica will open, silence will fall. He's just watching her with like kind of a, I don't know how to react to this because none of these words mean anything to me. And then comes the, okay, I told them what you look like in all these other bodies. And she's like, haha, psych, I can turn into Amelia. And so she takes Amelia's form. But then she takes the doctor's form because Amelia is hearing the doctor talk and she's thinking about the doctor. And then he says, think about the thing that you saw. Because Amelia is still like kind of conscious. Mm-hmm. And so she
Well, I think because he's also got his hands on her head, I think maybe he's like psychically doing that thing where he's sort of trying to help her.
Oh, that didn't occur to me.
Like she's unconscious and she's dreaming. But
because he says like she can hear me. So
right.
when he says think about the thing that you saw, I thought he was like literally just giving her instructions and she was just listening to him.
Well, I think that's why she's hearing him. It's because he's got that ability. That's my headcanon of it. There's no explanation in the show saying that that's what was happening. But I was just paying attention to like how he was holding her head. And it reminded me of the way that the doctor did that with Renette when he read her brain.
But he says she's dreaming about me because she can hear me. So I just thought that was like because
Maybe.
he doesn't have his hands on her when he like stands up and goes over to the thing, but maybe it's just like remaining because he did have his hands on her for a second.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
could be wrong.
I see what you mean though.
That's just how I interpreted it. I do like that he sees himself and he's like, well, that's rubbish. Who's that?
Yeah, I enjoy the enough of the raggedy doctor. It's time to put on a show. Mm-hmm. That was a good line. But yeah, so he gets her to think about what it actually looked like. And it transforms into its correct form against its will. And then gets zapped up by the fucking Atroxy. Atroxy?
Yeah. Sorry, I was yawning.
Then they begin to leave. And the doctor is like, oh, no, you don't. And yeah, goes through like the locker room, grabs up some new clothes that belong to other people, but he does not mind. Bow tie is the order of the day for this one. And goes up to have a bit of a conference call of his own. Because this will not stand. They don't get to just show up to Earth and be like, oh yeah, we're going to blow you up unless you like... And it's not even just like, unless you give up this thing. Y'all are bad at tracking it. It can transform into any number of beings, but you can only track it when it's in its regular form. That's sort of on you. Earth doesn't get punished for that. Mm-hmm. Get a better tracking system. Shut up. There is a moment when he's changing where Rory says to Amelia, aren't you going to turn around? And she just says, no. Mm-hmm. And I was like, girl, what is up? All right, shit. So yeah, when he first walks out there, it's not clear what he's going to pick because he's got like these suspenders hanging down and he's got like 3 ties around his neck. Like he says it's time to put on the show. But then once he actually rolls out, I was like, you're not doing it though, guy. What are you wearing? Come on. And this giant fucking eyeball comes down. What? It's so awful. I love Rory just pointing at it, but not saying anything and just being like, that is the correct reaction. And so he says to the thing, you just like, this is a class 5 established planet and you were just going to blow it up? No. This like 6 billion people live here. Is this world a threat to you? And it cycles through a bunch of like sort of like historical like, you know, disaster footage, it looks like for a second, and war footage. And I expected it to be like, yeah, I mean, look, y'all are fucking up. But then it says no, and I was really surprised. I was like, well, I guess we're only hurting ourselves. That seems fair, actually.
Yeah.
And he asks another question. Oh, are they breaking any of the laws of the Atraxi or doing anything illegal? And it says no. And then he says, okay, just one more question. Is this world protected? And it cycles through the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Ood and weird Skull Man and strange, like, pincer-like creature, what I think is like the bumblebee from that one episode. And
I also
just
saw
bunch of
a
the
flash of the
monsters.
spider woman.
Yes, that's the one. And he says, and when other things came and threatened it, what happened to them? And then we see all of these doctors' faces leading up until him as he walks through the image.
And he's got a bow tie on and a tweed jacket.
Yeah, he's been getting dressed while they're having this conversation. And I have to be honest, I was really hoping for those suspenders. Are those suspenders on under this jacket, this tweed jacket?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm rooting for those suspenders. I think suspenders are super sexy. I love a good suspender on a young man. On an old man, depending on the old man. But yeah, when he had the oh yeah, he's got suspenders on. I see it when he's reaching in there for his screwdriver, which broke, by the way. I forgot to mention that whole part, which fucking just fizzles out, so he can't use it for all of these like shortcuts that he normally does. What breaks it? Is that part of everything falling apart, like a TARDIS as well?
They don't really explain it. It had a bunch of goo all over it when it was in the false room.
That's true.
And it's been sort of on the fritz since
got water damage.
Yeah.
No warranty on this.
And I don't know, maybe it also got some fire. No idea.
Got some fire. Well said, ma'am. Oh, God. Yeah, so he has like these maroon suspenders on underneath the jacket. Yay! I'm so glad. Because like the bow tie, it suits him. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely character appropriate. But I just really like wanted one of these other tie looks that he was starting to flirt with for a minute there. And then I got a little disappointed.
I kind of like that it's, if he's going to wear one, it differentiates him even more by not
That's
having
true.
like a regular tie.
That's true. So he discovers the key to the TARDIS in his jacket pocket. It's glowing, and he goes sprinting over there. And I'm looking at it because you mentioned that the front looks different. There's still like that notice on the left. Does that say the same thing? Free for use of public advice and assistance, blah, 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 pull to open. But then there's like a round thing on the other.
Yeah, it's the other one.
Door. Is
the
that
round
the thing you're
one.
talking about?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. And he goes inside, and this shit looks totally different. It's really cool. It looks a lot warmer and much more welcoming than the other did. The other just really looked like bare bones machine that is like,
Yeah, lots of
it's not meant
honeycomb.
for comfort. Lots of honeycomb. Yeah, it felt very sort of like the inside of like it felt alive, which I know is part of what they're going for. So they definitely accomplished that. But it was just sort of off-putting. I don't know. Whenever it was like, oh, thank God, the TARDIS. We're back at the TARDIS. I'm so glad. I was just like, why? This place is bleak. But now I'm like, no, I get it. This is warm and nice.
This one feels new. That one felt raggedy. And I love the TARDIS. But this one feels like it got a little bit of a facelift.
Definitely. So we see Amelia and Rory. It's Rory. they come running up just as the TARDIS disappears. And she's standing there like, are you fucking kidding me? Did he just bail again and not even say anything this time? Are you serious? And then we go over to this little girl who has clearly sat out on her suitcase all night and is looking miserable. And then you hear the TARDIS noise. And apparently he went back in time to sort of fix the fact that he just left her. Am I interpreting this correctly?
I think she's dreaming about it.
Oh, that was just a dream? I thought that he was like, I feel really bad for leaving her there. I'm going to jump back real quick and fix the fact that I never came back and just be like, hey, sorry about that.
Yeah, she's dreaming about it because then she wakes up hearing the TARDIS and goes outside.
Oh. Well, now I'm mad. I liked my idea. Come on, go fix that, dude.
He can't go back into his own timeline.
It wasn't his own timeline. He wasn't there. That's the whole point.
I guess that's true.
Oh well. So yeah, she wakes up, she goes outside, and he again does not know that it has been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, hey, how about you become my companion? And she is sort of annoyed at how much he is taking for granted that she is definitely going to come. And he's like, dude, I can tell you don't really fit in this place. And you don't really want to fit. And you're just sort of like a fish out of water. And I know that feeling. And you can come and like be a fish out of water, but like in a good way. By going to travel to amazing, exotic, wonderful places where there's lots of aliens and stuff. And she's in her nightgown. So there's a bit of her being like, well, first of all, it's been 2 years, so what the fuck? And he's like, seriously? Oh, man, I'm sorry. Keep fucking that up. He really does. And then she gets to see the inside, and so do we. Because this, like, when he stepped into it before, he just smiled, and it's just like, oh, you sexy thing, I think is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, with her going in, is the first time that we get to see it, too.
Yeah.
And previously, when other people have been, like, amazed at the TARDIS, I've been understanding that this is, like, it's obviously a bunch of alien technology. It's obviously a reaction to the size of it being disproportionate to the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
And this one felt a lot more like, oh no, she's just like, this place looks glorious and she's a little overwhelmed by it. And it felt a lot more like I was having the reaction that she was supposed to be having in a way that hadn't really worked previously. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you really? You're just saying that?
No, I understand exactly what you mean.
So, yeah, it is pretty dope. Everything has like this amber glow to it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more like colors.
Yeah, and the whole like center console thing is completely different. Like even the engine part that makes the noise. Mm-hmm. Instead of looking like sort of invisible tubes that are in there, it's totally structured differently.
Yeah.
And there's like this TV screen that he's got that looks like an old-timey sort of TV screen that we do see towards the end that he has the crack like programmed onto it. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. I'm looking at this right now. He's got a fucking like gramophone horn coming off it. There's what looks like a giant like lava lamp effect happening in one of the windows. It's
sort of like they turned the inside of the TARDIS into like some steampunky stuff. Mm-hmm. Instead of like just looking like a collection of pieces that were picked up along the way and just put into use in some way or another. It designed itself to be much more steampunky.
Although it does have hot and cold tap handles.
Yes.
Which does feel like this just picked those up out of the yard.
Sure. But those also sort of fit into the aesthetic of everything else.
True. Yeah, and like the surface of the console, like there's a typewriter built into it and whatnot. Like, it's pretty funny, honestly. And there's also like a walkway that's going to an upper level, and I feel like the walkway is something that we have seen in certain angles in the previous TARDIS, but it wasn't something that was like visible from the doorway.
It was like a ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like gave the impression there's more to this ship than what you're seeing here, but it wasn't. It feels like this really leads somewhere versus like what that felt like, which was, oh, we're building a set that makes you think that there's more, which that's what that other one felt like to me. So yeah, he asks, are you feeling okay there? 'Cause sometimes the ship can just kind of be a lot. And she's saying, yeah, I thought maybe that you were just maybe a figment of my imagination, a madman with a box. And he says, well, listen, I need you to understand that I am. So just, keep that part in mind. You are correct in your assessment.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
I enjoyed this a great deal.
And then she asks him to promise to bring her back by the next morning for stuff.
Right.
Did you see the thing on the screen, though?
No, I'm like looking at it right now. I must have looked down at just the wrong time. There's something you better understand about me. Does he say it right
It's
here?
before that, when he talks about traveling alone, he ends up talking to himself. It gives himself an earache. And then there should be an image on the screen next to him. It's real quick.
Okay, let me rewind here. Okay, let's see. So she's in the middle of poking around at stuff and looking baffled, staring around. She'd make a pretty good Molly Carpenter, actually. I'm thinking for Dresden Files. You are asking me to run away with you in the middle of the night. It's a fair question. Why me? I'm looking. People always have a reason. Ooh, she's so cynical. Started talking to myself all the time. It's giving me an earache. I'm looking. Where is it?
It's like on the screen.
Is it the radio wave?
Yeah, but there's one in the middle that looks like the crack in her wall.
Oh, I see where yeah, okay. Yeah, because there's like another like wavy line over it that's moving. So that's the thing that I was like paying attention to, and I was like, that does not look like the crack in her wall at all, but I see that as like the through line here.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So what I took from that is that he wants her to come along with him, for sure, but he's also not stopped looking into what this crack in her wall is.
Yeah, he's monitoring that still.
Yeah.
Pun intended. Get it?
I do now.
And
then,
yeah, he turns that shit off with this look on his face, like, whoop, better not let her see that. And I was like, man, she's already suspicious that you have ulterior motives for asking her. When she finds out that this is part of the thing that you're still looking into, she gonna be mad at you, dude. Like, just be honest with her. I just feel like, I don't even know if mad is the right word, but she's obviously feels like, nothing happens because somebody just likes you and wants to do you a favor. And that seems to be true, even if it's not because of that,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm worried that she's going to like be like, yeah, see, it wasn't about me. It was about the stupid crack in my wall. I don't know. But
I didn't take it that way, but I'm not especially cynical.
I wouldn't take it that way if it weren't for his look of like concern when he turns it off, And now I'm just like, oh man, don't do this. Just be straight with her.
So what she needs to come back for in the morning is her wedding.
Right. We pan over a bunch of like weird paper mache puppets of the TARDIS and the Doctor and like all of these creatures that she's made and herself in her little coat and stuff. And then we go over, and they're all like sitting out in this way that I'm like, this woman is like, how old? And it's been 2 years since the last time she's seen him.
Well, so she's like 21.
But yeah, it pans over to her wedding gown. So apparently she needs to come back the next day because she's getting married. Mm-hmm. I don't know who to. I didn't see any prospects that I particularly approved of.
Okay.
Rory would be fine, but again, I don't see her interest there. So it could be a more attractive man with laptop, whose name I forget.
Jeff.
Jeff, right. Thank you. But it did not seem like there was anything happening there either. So maybe it's just like straight up somebody that we haven't met yet.
Maybe.
I wonder what he does for a living. Could he be a doctor?
Ugh. Boy.
Jamie has lost her patience with me, everyone. It's over. It's finally happened. Took a long time, but I wore her down.
All right, I have some trivia.
Okay.
This episode introduces a new Doctor Who theme arrangement, an unprecedented third by Murray Gold, not counting several other closing credit and non-series arrangements. A new opening title sequence is also introduced, along with a new Doctor Who logo. Other cosmetic changes as of this episode include a new TARDIS interior design, slight modifications to its exterior, and the introduction of a new sonic screwdriver.
What did they say? It was an unprecedented third?
It's the third Doctor Who theme arrangement that he's made. I think they originally just used the same theme, but then with 9, there was a theme, and then it was slightly different with 10. And now it's even more different with 11. So he's just changed some of it's the tempo, but there's like less of the part that I always liked, the theremin.
Yeah.
And more like drum.
I'm sorry, can you do that one more time?
No,
I didn't quite understand what you were trying to describe.
To be spontaneous, I never repeat. This story reveals that at least some sonic screwdrivers are grown or built by the TARDIS.
Okay, so it was like grown by... Okay, That's cool.
Amy Pond is the first Earth companion since the series revival to not be from London. In the confidential for this episode, Stephen Moffat says that London set stories had become a cliche, and this was an attempt to avoid it.
Interesting. Okay.
And then there's the thing about Caitlin Blackwood, who is the little Amy Pond, is Karen Gillan's cousin. This is the first time the Doctor doesn't use a mirror to find out what he looks like after regeneration.
Yeah, and I guess because he sees himself in the mirror, but he doesn't like go looking for it. So is that what they mean?
Yeah, like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 11th Doctor continues a long-standing tradition, which has had a few exceptions, of performing a large portion of his first episode in the costume of his previous incarnation, picking out his new costume at the end of the episode. One clothing retailer reported that in the month following this episode airing, in which the Doctor declared that bow ties are cool, that its bow tie sales increased by 94%.
Whoa. That is too much power for one human being to have. That is dangerous. The Doctor's real power is retail. That's what it is. Man,
yeah, and then
really?
This series, like starting with season 5 on, is when Doctor Who really stopped being sort of underground, sci-fi, nerdy circle of viewers to a mainstream show. Okay. And I never quite understood what it was that did that. Like, why all of a sudden? But a lot of it, I think, was the heavy promotion leading up to it. And then I read in this trivia that they also had several pre-broadcast public screenings in North America. They had one at WonderCon in San Francisco, and then there was one at the Village East Cinema in Manhattan, which was sponsored by BBC America and attended by Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, and Stephen Moffat. where they answered questions afterwards. And then there was another one at C2E2 convention in Chicago, and then one in Toronto, all happening before it aired on BBC America. So I think it was that kind of thing where they drummed up interest and people were talking about it more leading up to it, which got people who wouldn't normally be paying attention to be like, why is everybody talking about this thing? And then more people checked it out.
Gotcha.
Because I know a lot of people that started watching Doctor Who with this doctor and went back and like caught up.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's why, is that BBC America did some like ahead of the game promotion, which got more people interested. Because it really was a whole different thing starting with Matt Smith, where suddenly like Doctor Who is something normal, average people have heard of.
Okay.
And I had a bingo update, which is not really a bingo update because we all forgot that Tom Hopper was in this episode and also in Game of Thrones.
Oh no!
So he's not on anybody's bingo card.
Poor Tom. That's because his name is supposed to be Ethan Blaisley or whatever I said before.
Dickon Tarley.
I can't with that. Like, oh, man. Yeah, it's Dickon. But they say it in the show like you're saying it. So I can't be like, no, it's not that. Because they make you sure that we all know that that's how it's meant to be said. And
I don't know if that's how George R. R. Martin intended it. Like, I do believe that Rickon is Rickon. That's how I always pronounced it in my head when I was reading it. But when I read Dickon in the books, I read it as Dickon.
Yeah, I think I said Rickon.
Did you?
When I was like talking about the character on the podcast. I think I said Rickon. I don't really remember now that you were talking about it. But
you know what? Maybe I always pronounced it Rickon because I watched season 1 before I read the book. I started reading it at the same time and was getting very lost. So I decided to finish watching the show, the first season, and then finish the book. So I might have already heard it on the show.
I see that. All right. Is there anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Man, so this was just a really packed episode. There was a lot happening here, y'all.
Well, how do you feel? Because I know people are very curious. Like, what do you think of 11 so far? What do you think of Amy? How do you feel about
so
this?
far, so good.
Okay.
11 is definitely, like, way more... Like, so far, I just feel like this vibe... Excuse me. Something in my chest is trying to get out. It's terrifying. So far, the tone of this episode is the tone that I wanted that I wasn't getting. And that is like, we're going to like have there be stakes and like, we're not going to not take things seriously, but we're also not going to take ourselves that seriously. Right. And I'm hopeful that it sort of maintains that balance because like there's a way to handle big weirdo threats that are monsters that take on human form that, you know, that is an inherently creepy thing, but we don't need to try and like turn everything into like a sort of action movie, James Bondian, like it felt like they just wanted the Doctor in the previous season to be a little bit more like dark. And at times it worked, but I felt like they always wanted him to be dark regarding shit I didn't care about. And the stuff that I thought was legit dark and kind of fucked up, they just breezed right over like that was totally normal. And it feels like with this Doctor, they're like, no. Think about it. What a weirdo is this guy? Well, he just like comes into a whole new, he doesn't know what's happening. He just walks into a tree. He can't see. His eyes are brand new. And like, yeah, that feels right to me. It's a little bit like of an adjustment. When he turns and walks into a tree, I did do a little bit of a, what are we doing? But then I was like, no, I like it, you know?
Jinx.
Nah. I was just going to mention Amelia. I don't know what I think about her yet because she went into that one room and just stood there and like did everything he said not to do. So on the one hand, I like the fact that she doesn't seem to be scared of a lot of things. On On the other hand, she also doesn't take instruction from somebody who knows better. And maybe she should be a little bit more open to feedback.
Okay.
Otherwise, she seems pretty level-headed. I appreciated her skepticism. And, you know, she grew up sort of having to fend for herself. So that usually, unfortunately, it's not a good thing. But it does usually result in somebody being more competent later in life. I'm hoping that is a result. And I just don't know enough about her personality yet, though. So we'll see. Because she doesn't have a whole lot to do this episode other than that one moment in that room and then sort of following him around and challenging him as to whether or not he's telling the truth. So she doesn't have much of a chance to stretch too much as a person yet.
It's interesting, and sort of calls back to what Stephen Moffat did in The Girl in the Fireplace, where the doctor is popping in and out of this person's life. Their life is going in a linear time, and he's in and out all over the place.
Right.
So it's interesting to have a companion who was affected by this person at a very young age.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, and we know how much the doctor, he's not exactly a secret anymore, you know? So,
right.
It is, there is a part of me that's like, she shouldn't have been seeing psychiatrists. If you talk to, anybody in London, they would be like, oh, that guy, yeah, he was around all the time last year. Probably somebody would be able to help her out here. But I can't help but wonder if that's going to come up at all. The fact that she went unbelieved for so long. Does she still, have resentment about that? I don't know.
I would like to point out that this doctor did not raise his voice.
I mean, maybe he didn't, but he definitely comes out yelling how he wants an apple and then spits bacon on the table.
Well,
so,
besides that,
you know.
I mean, when he's having his big confrontation at the end, he's very calm.
That's true.
And very, basically run. He does not yell at this giant eyeball. He just states the facts.
Yeah.
You can see who I am, so run.
Yeah, that's pretty baller, actually. I kind of breezed over that because we got caught up talking about something else from that scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty good.
I just really, really love how Matt Smith performs this character, and I loved it right from the start.
I want to know who sanctions this fucking prison. Who runs that place? It seems like a goddamn mess.
I don't know.
Sauron.
Maybe we'll find out more about them later.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, also, I like the episode because there was no, stinger like that at any time. Dun, dun,
oh,
dun.
Because musically?
They, straight up did that a few times in other episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. There was one musical cue where when little Amelia is sitting on her suitcase and it starts to fade away from her and you realize, oh my God, is he not coming right back? Mm-hmm. And how sad that is. The music is really sad. And I noticed it thinking, is this the same type of musical cue that was deployed in previous seasons where it's trying to force you to feel something?
Yeah, I didn't feel that time.
So
because it really was just so sad.
So it was used effectively.
Yeah, I feel like it's the music is just echoing how I do feel rather than being like, don't you feel this way? And I'm like, wait, what? No.
Right. So it's the same composer, but his music is being utilized in a completely different way, which is one of those many things that, you pointed something out that I wasn't really paying attention to, but as I've rewatched, I started realizing that is different in this episode, which, makes it, what's the word that I'm looking for? like, that's a possibility that that's the way it stays, and that because Stephen Moffat just runs the show in a different way, and he has a different tone, and he's going for a different vibe overall, that he's putting this music that Murray Gold writes that's very beautiful and very effective, but using it in a more subtle way. So you're not...
Right.
I don't know. There's just... I'm sure we'll have complaints about things that Stephen Moffat does because he's still Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, he still do be messy, though.
Right. But this is a much better start.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Although I did love the introduction of Donna, too, so...
Sure.
I'm not mad about that. But yeah, I overall, yes, definitely agree.
Like, you can already feel that things are different just because of the way that things were deployed and sort of left hanging. Like, I was talking to Jason about this. There's this thing with a crack in her wall that was not solved at the end of the episode. We weren't given some, like, weird convoluted reason for it. It's something that's carrying over. I don't know how often it's going to pop up, but clearly it's something. And it's an overarching story that's happening instead of shoehorning in what we want to be overarching because we have a plan for the finale.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
It's just better planning. And, you know, one of our biggest complaints of previous seasons was that the writing was really poor.
Yeah.
The planning of their stories was really poor. And this episode... Now I've watched this 3 times in the last few months. It just holds up really well and is just way better organized. So
yeah. All right, cool.
I hope you feel the same way and are excited to move forward.
I am.
Yay.
I'm going to say hi really quick to 2 new patrons, Karina V and Roger Domkowski. Welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for becoming patrons. We love you.
Welcome.
I hope that you enjoy the Great British Bake Off finale, and we'll be starting on Breaking Dawn very soon.
My God.
Dun-dun.
Is that the last one?
Mm-hmm. It's almost over, folks. And Miles has agreed to let me read him a particular chapter live on camera, so I am super excited about that.
Oh my God. When we get off the air, I want to know if I'm right about what chapter you're thinking.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. I hope that you have enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.